In the sun-cracked cradle of a fractured Nile, a people stitched their broken land together with trembling hands. Imagine a land torn apart, families scattered, and hope just a flicker in the twilight. This was Egypt at the end of the First Intermediate Period, a time of chaos where the once mighty kingdom was shattered into pieces. But from this dust and despair, a new dawn was about to break. From 2055 to 1650 BC, a period we now call the Middle Kingdom, Egypt was reunified. The darkness began to recede. This wasn't just about rebuilding temples. It was about healing a nation's soul. This era is often called the classical age of Egyptian civilization, a time of incredible resurgence. But this rebirth was not without its cost, its sorrow, and its secrets. What aching desperation, what untold stories whispered through the winds to heal this shattered realm. The journey began with a powerful pharaoh, Mentuhotep II. He was the one who, in 2055 BC, finally brought the warring factions of Egypt back under a single crown. Imagine the relief, the fragile peace that settled over the land. Farmers could once again plant their seeds in reclaimed soil, their eyes reflecting the river's shimmer, mixed with the memory of the chaos they had survived. The air was heavy with the scent of fresh plaster on new temples and the distant promise of a unified future. Yet, the ghosts of civil war lingered, a silent reminder of the price of peace. With reunification came a burst of energy and ambition. Trade routes, long dormant, were reopened and expanded. Caravans laden with exotic goods once again trekked across the deserts. These trade networks didn't just bring wealth, they brought new ideas, new materials, and a renewed connection to the wider world. Gold from Nubia, cedarwood from Lebanon, and precious stones from the eastern desert flowed into Egypt, fueling a golden age of arts and crafts. This prosperity is visible in the stunning artifacts left behind. The jewelry of Middle Kingdom princesses, intricate and dazzling, showcases a level of craftsmanship that is simply breathtaking. Statues from this period are also different. They move away from the rigid, idealized forms of the Old Kingdom. Instead, we see portraits of pharaohs like Senusret III with weary, careworn faces. These weren't just kings. They were men who carried the immense burden of a nation on their shoulders. Their faces tell a story of responsibility, of concern, and of the harsh realities of rule. It's a raw, humanizing art that speaks volumes across the millennia. And then there was the literature. The Middle Kingdom gave us some of the greatest works of Egyptian writing. Tales like the story of Sinud, an epic about an Egyptian courtier who flees into exile and longs for his homeland. It's a powerful story of identity, loyalty, and the deep, abiding love for Egypt itself. These weren't just simple stories. They were complex literary works that explored the depths of the human heart, its fears, its sorrows, and its hopes. In the flickering light of palace lamps, scribes copied these tales, preserving the very soul of their culture on papyrus. But this classical age was built on more than just art and trade. It was built on military might and strategic expansion. Pharaohs like Amenemhat I and his successors pushed Egypt's borders south into Nubia, a land rich in gold and other resources. This wasn't a peaceful expansion. It was a series of hard-fought campaigns. To secure these new frontiers, they built a chain of massive, imposing fortresses along the Nile. These fortresses, like Buin and Semna, were marvels of military engineering. With their thick walls, dry moats, and bastions, they were designed to withstand any attack and project Egyptian power deep into foreign territory. For the soldiers garrisoned there, life was harsh and isolated, far from their homes and families. Each fortress stood as a victory snatched from the jaws of despair, but also as a symbol of the conflict and control that underpinned this prosperous age. The hearts of the pharaohs and their soldiers must have pounded with the terror of frontier wars, even as they were driven by the fragile dream of a secure and stable Egypt. While the pharaohs and elites enjoyed immense wealth, what was life like for the common person? For the farmers, the laborers, the miners? Their backs bent under the merciless sun tilled the soil that fed the kingdom. Their hands built the pyramids and fortresses that glorified the pharaohs. Social bonds were forged in the fire of shared hardship, but prosperity also created new divides. A growing bureaucracy of officials managed the state's affairs, creating a more complex and stratified society. The canals they dug were victories against famine, but every grand project required immense human labor, leaving families to wonder about the harmony bought with sweat and separation. So, we have this picture of a powerful, prosperous, and culturally rich kingdom. It had healed its internal wounds and projected its power far beyond its traditional borders. But no golden age lasts forever. By 1650 BC, the Middle Kingdom, which had risen so brilliantly, began to wither. The central authority of the pharaohs weakened, and from the northeast, a new threat emerged. They were known as the Hyksos, a people from Western Asia who began to settle in the Nile Delta. Over time, they grew in power, adopting Egyptian customs but maintaining their own distinct identity. They introduced new technologies of warfare to Egypt, like the horse-drawn chariot and the composite bow. Eventually, they became strong enough to challenge the pharaohs directly, shattering the unity of the kingdom once again. The glorious Middle Kingdom, the classical age of Egypt, collapsed, giving way to the Second Intermediate Period. The beacon of reunification was extinguished. The dream of a secure, eternal kingdom was broken. This era of fragile gold, of interconnected dreams, dissolved into shattered hopes. The prosperity that had seemed so permanent vanished, and the land was once again divided. Yet, the spirit of the Middle Kingdom did not die. It seeded a resilience in the Egyptian soul, a memory of what they could achieve. The pain of this collapse would eventually fuel the next great chapter in Egypt's story, the New Kingdom, an age of empire and conquest. The cost of the Middle Kingdom's glory and its eventual fall lingered in every scarred soul, a lament for the peace that was lost. As we look back at the weathered stones of the Middle Kingdom's fortresses and the weary faces of its statues, we are left with questions. From chaos's dawn to its heartbroken peak, was its splendor summoned by ancestral visions and sheer will? Or did the very expansion that made it great plant the seeds of its destruction? Do buried fortresses hide not just treasures, but curses that shattered its weary hold? The soul of Egypt's Middle Kingdom endures, a testament to resilience and creative genius. Yet the full story, the hidden heartaches and the silent cries of those crushed beneath glory's weight, remains partially veiled. In the forsaken stones and faded papyri of the Middle Kingdom, what untold stories of triumph and sorrow are still waiting to be discovered? What do you think was the greatest achievement of this era, and what lessons can we learn from its eventual collapse? Share your reflections in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more journeys into the past.